Hi, it's Paul from Wicked Acorn. If I asked you to meet me where Manchester's first airfield was, you might think surely it must be Ringway or maybe Trafford Park Aerodrome. But you'd have to think back farther than those places. This place was used as an airfield almost 100 years before the Wright brothers were even born. The blue plaque explains it best. From a garden on this site, James Sadler, pioneer English aeronaut, made the first manned balloon ascent in Manchester on the 12th of May, 1785. James Sadler was neither high-born nor well-educated, and much of his early life is unknown. He worked in a cafe baking pastry. With the little spare time he had, he managed to design, manufacture, and fuel his own airworthy balloon. He tested his early creations with a string of unmanned flights. By May 1784, Sadler was confident enough to send a dog aloft. This was 180 years before the Soviets launched Laika into the heavens to test the machine's airworthiness, and 40 years before the founding of the RSPCA. Upon landing, the dog was nowhere to be found. Perhaps the poor animal had enough and was not chancing a second flight. But the test had the desired effect. Sadler was ready for the next step, piloting his own balloon. To say that Britain wasn't fully prepared for air flight is an understatement. An earlier unmanned balloon that landed in Devon was attacked by pitchfork-wielding farmers, fearing it to be some sort of demon come to steal their cows. When people heard of the crazy baker's plan, they warned him against colliding with heaven itself, and asked if he had planned to take any weapons, lest he be attacked by sky dragons. The nature of air flight wasn't fully understood. It was thought that you could simply row through the skies, as if you were in a boat, which is why Sadler counted 2 large oars among his first flight apparatus. Sadler judged it was time to attempt the feat himself. Most early balloonists depended on attracting paying observers to cover the considerable costs involved. Sadler advertised his intention to render the performance the most perfect one of its kind that has ever been exhibited in public. Unfortunately, Oxford was out of term at the time, and that public was rather thin on the ground. Sadler decided to postpone his maiden voyage until the new term in October. This delay denied him the privilege of being the first man to ever fly in England. By the time Sadler made his first launch, the Italian Vincenzo Lunardo had already made the ascent from London. Sadler's 5th flight was the first manned balloon ascent in Manchester. Ballooning was expensive, and nobody had ever seen anything like this before. To help fund his flight, Sadler would put his balloons on display before flying them, charging people for the chance to marvel at this entirely new miracle machine. He took off from the recreational gardens attached to a house owned by John Howarth in Long Millgate, with a crowd of 5,000 gathered to witness this scientific marvel. Sadler took to his flying machine with his cat for company and proceeded to fly 7 miles north to Radcliffe, taking an hour and 3/4 before landing in a reed bed. Flying in a balloon at a height of 3,600 feet when people were used to nothing faster than a horse. He became the first Englishman to ever take flight. The alley behind the grounds later became known as Balloon Street. In 2015, a public square was named after him, and nearby you can find his blue plaque. Nobody had heard the name James Sadler until February 1784. By 1814, he would draw crowds of up to 30,000 to watch his marvelous flying machine. He became an overnight celebrity as balloon fever gripped the nation. Whole towns would close down for the day to watch the balloonist in action. It marked the beginning of Manchester's long and continuing history in flight. From humble working-class beginnings as a pastry chef, he went on to immortality for his achievement. From Alcock and Brown's first transatlantic flight to Tim Peake spending 186 days in space, James Sadler was the first. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and check out our webpage where you'll find all kinds of Manchester things, wickedacorn.com.